Shalom Chevra, it's an honor and delight to be here with my teacher, Rabbi Yitzchak Blau, who is Rosh Yeshiva at Yeshivat Oraita, and also teaches at Midrashet the Lindenbaum. He's an associate editor of the Journal Tradition and the author of Fresh Fruit and Vintage Wine, The Ethics and Wisdom of the Agadah, a very profound teacher in my life who not only taught me basic skills, but also taught me meta-philosophical lessons. So Rav Blau, thank you for taking this time to talk.
It's a pleasure to be here, Rav Shmuly.
Thank you. So to jump right in, do you feel more aligned with the religious Zionist community in Israel or with modern Orthodoxy in America? And how do these two camps support or challenge your thinking and identity differently?
Sure. Before I get to the specifics, I just want to point out one important difference, that there's just a very wide range of post-high school institutions in Israel, in the religious Zionist world, which don't have a parallel in America. For America, let's say we count YU, and then we count Chovei Torah, and then, well, where exactly does the count go? We talk about the Dati Lumi world, there's so many different institutions with so many different hashkafot at play. Okay, that being said, maybe I'll try to answer your question anyway. For many years, I think the dividing line was different. That in Israel, if we, let's say, compare the Dati Lumi world with the Haredi world, the dividing line would be attitude to the state of Israel and armies. That was kind of its identity of being Dati Lumi. Where in America, for many years, more getting a secular education and your relationship with the larger society, with non-Jewish society. So it's interesting because in many ways, I think I'm more that modern Orthodox. I think order education is something that's extremely important to me, and a more positive attitude towards the broader non-Jewish world. At the same time, maybe since I've come to Israel, I've grown to appreciate what the Dati Lumi world has to offer. Maybe I'll just mention two things. Especially with my kids, I've really experienced this. I guess the biggest difference between growing up in Israel and America, I'd have to say it's really army service. If you're an 11th grade Orthodox kid in New York, you're thinking about college and career. That's what's on your mind. And if you're an 11th grader in Israel, college is not even on your radar, right? You're definitely going to some kind of Hesder or Mechina or maybe just regular army. After those 3 years, okay, I'll go explore South America for half a year. So it's something very different, but I think it's a real challenge. And it's in many ways, before you take care of yourself and do your own self-realization, you're giving 5 years to your people. That's a powerful thing that I think people in America could learn from. So I've grown to really appreciate that.
So you've obviously had many influences in your life: family, rabbis, religious figures. I wonder who are some of the philosophers, living or deceased, who you feel most shaped your Torah worldview and how?
Okay, are we talking about Jewish philosophers, non-Jewish philosophers, both?
Most broadly, both, yeah.
Okay, great. Let me say, I think I'm the kind of person that doesn't really have like one thinker that's dominant. I'm a little bit more eclectic, but I guess the way I would formulate it is wisdom and insight are very precious commodities, and we should just find them wherever we could find them. So to give you an example, both for Jewish and non-Jewish, I think I'm really not Hasidic and really not Haredi. And yet, two of the people I find most insightful are Rav Yitzchak and Rav Tzadok HaKohen from Lublin. And I think we can safely say Haredi, and we can safely say Rav Hasidic, Rabbi. Just so much, even if they agree with me on secular studies, attitude to non-Jews, at the same time, I think, just as I said, we should find precious wisdom wherever we could find it. So I think there's been a wide range. Even just give one more example. For years, I think in my mind, the Rambam was kind of the good guy and the Kuzri was the bad guy. Because we had the Rambam's a rationalist and the Kuzri's a mystic. The Rambam doesn't essentially mention being Jew and non-Jew, and the Kuzri does. And in the last 2 years, I come to appreciate many things the Kuzri contributes that the Rambam can't. Especially, as you know, Rav Shmuly, we've realized all the limitations of logic and rationalism in our world. And in some ways, that makes the Kuzri a more important model than the Rambam. So I would say I really am trying to bring the good ideas to everybody. And same thing in the non-Jewish world, meaning philosophers, certain essays, but I think it's real like even one more example, I'm really a humanities person, not a science person. But in recent years, those doctors who were able to write kind of as a humanist have affected me greatly. Like I think Atul Gawande's book about death and being mortal, one of the most important books in the last 50 years. Oliver Sacks has had a major impact on me, Jerome Groopman to some degree. So I can't give you an answer, but I would say people out there, find wisdom wherever you could find it.
Beautiful, beautiful. As Rambam himself says, I think in the Shmona Prakim, right?
Yeah, well said, Shmuly. Good reference.
So, many have suggested that Plato was wrong, at least on this point, that those who know the good will do the good. However, I wonder, nonetheless, how you might think a lack of sophistication in philosophy, or in Jewish ethics in particular, might lead to moral and religious deficiencies within our religious community today.
It's a very good question. I think I would say the lack of ability to hold two opposing truths together really is negative. This thing I think was that we have truths that can't fit seamlessly together, such as equality and, what's Berlin's example again? Equality.
And freedom.
Freedom. Yes, equality and freedom. And I'll use some examples that I think affect our community. Let's say universalism and particularism. The fact that we could feel very committed to helping the larger world, the Jewish world, and yet feel particular allegiance and responsibility to our fellow Jews. I think a lot of Jews struggle with that. And then, unfortunately, on the right wing, and more in Orthodoxy, unfortunately, we forget the universalism, right? We have just a sense of only our fellow Jews matter and don't do the things that are really about the ethics of broader society, something, thank God, you're good at, Shmuly. The flip side is more liberal circles, and like they're that somehow if we have any special concern for our fellow Jews, that's a violation of some grand ethical principle, which I think is just ethically wrong. I think one could keep those two things together. And sometimes it's manifested particularly with like a special negativity towards this Israel, as if like it would be embarrassing to feel connected to the state because it would be too materialistic. So that I think is something that everyone has to work on. Maybe on the right, we learn how to be more universalistic, and the left, we have to learn how to be more particularistic. One other example of that would be, and this you probably suffer from more than me, I'm amazed by the politics in America, as if Republicans think that having no problems in the world from the Democratic side, Democrats think that all the problems in the world are from the Republican side. I don't know a sophisticated thinker to think that. There's such a range of issues, and how can it be that one party is right about everything, the other party is wrong about everything? It doesn't seem to me a reasonable position. Okay, one last example, Shmuly, if you don't mind. I would say even in ethical theory, you get the same thing. Okay, as you know, there are different ethical theories that are, vying for our attention, be it consequential or Kantian or aristotelic. I think one of the reasons they're vying for our attention is because they all have a truth to them. And when we try to reduce it to one principle, it tends to not really reflect the depth of our ethical experience. So I would say, Shmuly, sophistication, I would call the need to be able to combine multiple values, multiple systems into a healthy whole.
Beautiful. So I wonder where we see this value of paradox you're talking about within traditional Jewish thought. I mean, Rambam talks about a golden mean based on Aristotle, on moderation, and we have certainly an understanding of machloket and a dialectical tension. But this idea you're talking about, which resonates for me a lot, of holding multiple truths at once, I wonder where we see that in traditional Jewish thought.
Look, I'll say this, Shmuly, you're right that we wouldn't see it as much in terms of from Judaism, although but I think certainly, as you pointed out, within the orbit of from Judaism, I think there's certainly very much an ethic of elu ve'elu, about how discordant voices come together, right? The Aruch HaShulchan's Hakdama has this famous imagery of different voices are how you create a harmony. So that's your point is well, you don't have as much as the larger world. But even if there are things, for example, I think Rav Kook was a very innovative and courageous thinker. And in my mind, one of the most important things about Rav Kook was realizing that, secular Zionism had something to contribute and something that wasn't found in the Orthodox community, right? That's something, it's an interesting thing. When you get to modernity, there may be Orthodox rabbis who have kind of a less negative view of the secular Jewish community. I think only Rav Kook was able to develop a more, not just, we'll get rid of the negativity, a generally positive view of what they're doing, their dedication, their idealism, their commitment to justice, and to see that as a positive and even a corrective to certain trends in the Orthodox world.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. So, Rav Blau, so, I don't think we take either approach, that we need to make every criticism public that we have of other religious figures or issues. But we also certainly don't take the approach that we found in the Catholic Church, for example, of trying to sweep everything under the rug. So I wonder, what are some of the pressing moral issues that you think we should be publicly vocal about within our religious communities, where you think we need better moral clarity on? Issues where you think, to state it sort of strongly, where we're really missing the mark. And how do you think we can get there before it's too late? What are some of the changes we need to make?
Okay. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to be better at outlining the problems than suggesting good solutions, okay, but we'll start with that. Okay. Look, I think there are a couple of things. There are a couple of cases that seem to me moral no-brainers. Like, it's so obvious what the morally correct thing to do is. And we have not been great at it. Section 2, one is with sexual abuse in our community, especially from rabbis and religious figures. And here, look, we don't have a monopoly on the problem. Obviously, the Catholic Church has had it, and Penn State University's football team. But at the same time, how could it be that we these things up? How could we would let the perpetrators just move to the community and do it again? It just seems like an obvious thing that we have to stop this, and there's no excuse for such behavior. I think we have made some strides. Okay, I don't know if you've had Shira Berkovitz on, but she is a woman who has an institution called Sacred Spaces that's doing a lot of good things in this area. So that for me, that's a moral no-brainer. I would say also the Aguna problem. Without getting into specific solutions, it's simply unconscionable that a man will torment his ex-wife by not giving her a get for 20 years. And at very least, even if you don't think a lot of exclusion X works, at least our community should shut this. You can't go to some show and find any acceptance anywhere, right? So it seems to me those are just moral no-brainers about places where our community has not been in the right place. I think I'd start right there.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. Yeah, and I very much agree with those examples. So I wonder, as someone who not only lives in Adon Shvut, or I assume you still do, and who learned at the Gush and has been very obviously involved in the community, what do you think is Rav Aaron Lichtenstein's greatest legacy? In terms of what he has modeled and left for us as his Talmidim, Talmidot, and who do you view as Gedolim today?
Okay.
Is that still the language we should be using and looking for?
Okay, well, you asked me a lot of questions I love to answer. That's great. Okay. I think for me, Rav Lichtenstein's legacy would be three things. One is people might not realize this, but even though the Yeshivat Hesder movement began before Rav Lichtenstein, it was more considered kind of a b'diavad for those that aren't serious enough for, real yeshiva learning. And Rav Lichtenstein wrote a well-known essay, which has also appeared in English. In Hebrew, it's called Zot Torat HaHesder. In English, it's called The Ideology of Hesder, where he really emphasizes the two truths. We're very committed to becoming Torah observant and knowledgeable Jews. But how could it be that religious Jews would just let the secularists do all the work? Right? How can it's okay? We don't have to be in the borders of Lebanon or doing the computer work that needs to be done in intelligence. We need to all we have. So I think Lichtenstein in Israel really set the tone that this is not a second-rate move, being involved in religion and the army. This is the ideal move, right? That's what we should be doing. I still think also in terms of America and Israel, he's still probably the most powerful voice of the worth of broader education. I think it's still true. It's interesting. Obviously cited, Rudolf Otto and Karl Barth and Kierkegaard, but he never wrote about the value of them. There's no programmatic essay. He has several programmatic essays about this worthwhile endeavor. So I think intellectually, those two main revolutions. As an ideal, armed services is an ideal, and the worth of a larger education. I'll just mention one last thing, and this really touches on your next point. For me, he was also just a model of, ethical excellence, right? Just a certified human being. Like, as I've grown older, perhaps there are more things I disagree with him on than I was 20 years ago. But that doesn't change the opinion of the man in the slightest. He was just humble and honest and decent, and we need more people like that. It brings me to your second question. I wish I could give you a list. I feel like we don't have such greatness anymore. And maybe on some level, it's even a healthy thing in the sense that maybe sometimes too much faith on the Gedolim has been problematic. Okay, I think we see recently in even Rav Chaim Kanievsky on the Corona situation, a sense of you could be a very knowledgeable rabbi, but not know enough about a specific issue to really make a good call, a good decision. So I wish we had greatness for that, but maybe we'll have a lot of good people doing things, but other person doing great things.
Beautiful. Always so insightful and inspiring for me. So I thank you so much. And friends, I hope you'll pick up Rav Blau's writings. And if you're of the right age, check out Yeshiva Doraita. Rav Blau, wishing you and your family lots of bracha and hatzlacha.
Okay, to you too as well, Rav Shmuly. Great talking to you.
Thank you so much.